The constitutional structure of U.S. military governance establishes civilian control over all branches of the armed services. This includes the United States Navy. The Secretary of the Navy is the civilian official who exercises this authority. In the current administration, that position is held by John Phelan. Phelan's appointment represents a departure from historical patterns in one specific aspect. He has no documented military service record. He did not serve in the Navy. He did not serve in any branch of the U.S. military. Prior to his appointment, there is no public record of professional relationship with naval operations or military affairs. What is documented about Phelan is his background in finance and his activities as an art collector. His name appears in art world publications, primarily in that context. When his appointment was announced, art industry media attempted to characterize his collecting interests for a general audience unfamiliar with his background. One description that circulated in multiple publications came from a former Sotheby's executive who characterized Phelan's art collection focus as, quote, a celebration of the sexual side of life. The publication ArtNet published photographs of portions of his collection displayed at one of his residences. These images were not suitable for broadcast television display. Other art publications documented a video art installation at one of his properties consisting entirely of Playboy centerfolds. There is also documented discussion of architectural features at his Aspen, Colorado residence, valued at approximately $38 million. In an interview with ArtNewspaper.com, Phelan's wife was asked about unusual display locations for artwork. She described the living room floor of their Aspen home as entirely mirrored, stating that party guests experience surprise reactions when they realize what reflections the floor provides. She described these reactions as, quote, naughty and nice. That Aspen residence was the location of a fundraising event for then-candidate Donald Trump in August 2024. The fundraiser generated media coverage for two reasons. First, it was one of the occasions where Trump made claims about the Democratic Republic of Congo releasing prisoners for transportation to the United States. Second, Trump traveled to that fundraiser on an aircraft that had previously been owned by Jeffrey Epstein. The campaign stated at the time this was coincidental. Following the November 2024 election, Trump appointed John Phelan as Secretary of the Navy. Subsequently, Congress compelled the Justice Department to release portions of government files related to Jeffrey Epstein, the late convicted sex offender and trafficker. Among the materials released were flight manifests from Epstein's aircraft. CNN initially reported that John Phelan's name appears on at least 2 transatlantic flight logs associated with Epstein's plane. The flight manifest documents show Phelan listed as passenger number 9. Also listed on the same manifest was Jean-Luc Brunel, a French modeling scout who faced rape allegations in the 1990s and later accusations of providing underage girls to Jeffrey Epstein. Brunel was found dead in his French jail cell in 2022 after being charged in related cases. French authorities ruled the death a suicide. Epstein's aircraft acquired the nickname Lolita Express based on testimony from some of Epstein's accusers who stated he frequently had young women and girls aboard to entertain guests. The flight manifest published by CNN shows Phelan's name clearly listed. 6 other passenger names on that same manifest are redacted. The reason for those specific redactions has not been publicly explained. No allegations have been made regarding the presence of minors on the specific flights where Phelan appeared as a passenger. MSNBC contacted the U.S. Navy requesting comment on Phelan's documented connection to Epstein and his presence on Epstein's aircraft. The Navy declined to provide any statement. Today marked the first day members of Congress were permitted, under restricted conditions, to physically visit the Justice Department to review unredacted versions of certain Epstein-related documents. Congressman Jamie Raskin, who participated in this review, provided his assessment afterward. Raskin stated that the released files contain numerous redactions of names where the redacted individuals are not victims. He stated that Congress has not yet received from DOJ the legal justification explaining why certain redactions were made. Raskin characterized many of the redactions he observed as, quote, very suspicious and baffling. He noted that Donald Trump's name was redacted in multiple locations throughout the files. Raskin specifically referenced one conversation between Epstein's legal representatives and Trump's legal representatives related to a 2009 investigation that had been redacted. Raskin stated he saw no justifiable reason for that redaction. Raskin stated that Trump's name appears extensively throughout the Epstein files, appearing thousands of times across the documentation. When asked about tips submitted to law enforcement tip lines regarding Trump and an alleged incident involving a 13-year-old, Raskin stated he saw nothing in the files he reviewed today addressing how those tips were investigated or why they were dismissed. Raskin noted that extensive time reviewing the files reveals references to girls aged 17, 16, 14, 11, 10, and in one instance he reviewed today, age 9. He characterized the overall content as, quote, a really gruesome and grim story. Beyond Phelan, other current administration officials and political figures appear in the Epstein files. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick's name appears multiple times, including in documents apparently discussing arrangements to visit Epstein's island property. Elon Musk, currently the largest Republican Party donor by contribution volume, also appears in the files multiple times, including correspondence attempting to secure an invitation to what Musk referred to as Epstein's, quote, annual party. There are no criminal allegations against Phelan, Lutnick, or Musk in these files. All three remain in their current positions within the administration or Republican political sphere as of this broadcast. One individual who has experienced professional consequences is Brad Karp, who until recently served as chairman of Paul Weiss, a prominent New York law firm. Karp and his firm became notable in the past year as what media characterized as, quote, the face of capitulation to Donald Trump, following Trump's return to the presidency. After Trump's second inauguration, he issued executive orders of uncertain legal authority threatening certain elite law firms. Paul Weiss was among the firms targeted. Brad Karp responded by traveling to the White House for direct conversation with Trump regarding removing his firm from the target list. That conversation reportedly began with, quote, a prolonged discussion of golf. It concluded with Karp committing that Paul Weiss would donate $40 million in free legal services to projects designated by Trump as a means of resolving the firm's conflict with the administration. This sequence of events, Phelan's appointment despite no military background, his documented flights on Epstein's aircraft, the release of Epstein files showing extensive redactions, including Trump's name, the appearance of multiple current administration officials in those files, and the response of elite institutions like Paul Weiss to administration pressure forms a pattern. The pattern shows how individuals with documented connections to Epstein have been placed in positions of significant government authority. It shows how the release of government files related to Epstein has been managed with extensive redactions that congressional oversight finds unjustified. And it shows how private sector institutions are responding to pressure from an administration whose key figures appear throughout those same files. The Secretary of the Navy oversees a military branch with approximately 350,000 active duty personnel and a budget exceeding $200 billion. That position is currently held by someone whose primary public profile involves art collecting and who appears in flight logs associated with a convicted sex trafficker. The files documenting that trafficker's activities and associates contain thousands of references to the current president, but much of that content remains redacted despite congressional legislation requiring transparency. The stated reason for many redactions is to protect victims. But congressional review today concluded many redactions protect non-victims whose identities would be politically or socially damaging to reveal. These are the documented facts as they currently stand. The Navy has not commented. The Justice Department has not provided legal justification for the redactions Congress finds questionable, and the individuals named in the files remain in their positions. The process continues. Congress will continue reviewing files as access is granted. Media will continue reporting on content as it becomes available, and the public record will continue documenting who held what positions and what their documented associations were. This is not speculation about misconduct. This is documentation of associations, appointments, and the handling of government files related to those associations. The flight manifests are public record. The congressional testimony is public record. The patterns those records reveal are now part of the permanent public documentation of this administration.